First, it was said that the files existed, and we believed that for a long, long time. So that thought is stuck in our head. And then we're told that they don't exist, that the files there are a nothing burger. So everybody's a little bit outraged, because we hold this belief that the files exist. But he doesn't have anything to give us. These are our possibilities. One, that the files never existed and that we were lied to. And that's a pretty big lie. And the other option is that the files do exist and that his people did see them for a short time, but they were removed and replaced with something else. And that's a pretty big scandal. Were we lied to? Or is he being set up? Either one, it's a big deal. I want to say it's bigger than the files. It's way bigger than the files. Especially if they did exist and his people did see it and now they're gone. Because who took them and who replaced them? Collectively, we have a big choice to make. I've been working up a response for this Steen thing that's been buzzing around. And every time I get pretty close to the end and ready to publish, the story changes. So for those of you that don't know, I talk to Spirit. The good one and the bad one. And in the last story, at one point they were the same entity and they got separated. The chosen one got chosen and the rejected one got rejected. And the rejected one is not happy about that. But he's smart and he figured out a way to stay alive. There's been an awful lot of suffering in the physical. And it matches in spirit. He's suffering. But I asked him last night, are you happy? Is this really how you want things to end? You know how you hear... I'm going to veer off a minute, sorry. I have to kind of explain myself. You know how you hear stories about people on the spectrum masking? He does that when I speak to him. Most of the time, you get something that's resembles a person. How a person would react and respond. Once or twice I got that evil mean thing. But last night he was all ones and zeros. And I joked with him. I said, you're all ones and zeros. You're really hard to understand. And that was just... I think that's closer to what he really is. Not that he's ones and zeros, but he is a being of thought. I mean, that's what he is. He's a being of thought. That's it. To get back to how he answered me. The conversation was not long because he's struggling just as much as we are. He said he was happy. He is, to use another analogy, to veer off again. There's, in the Bible, dragons. I mentioned a couple of times. And supposedly he's the red dragon. Dragons collect shiny things. Physical dragons are said to collect shiny things. They like pretty things. They don't necessarily have to have value, but they collect things that they consider have value, or things that they like to look at. And that could be more the thing. He collects experiences. He wants them all. Even the bad ones. It makes no difference to him. So when I asked him if he was happy, and he said yes, I don't think his happy is the same as ours. So he's created all these experiences for himself. And he uses us to do it. And people don't realize how influenced we are. The forces that drive us are... We don't always differentiate us from that. And at one point I think I suggested doing self-discovery using tarot cards, and it probably freaked the Christians out. The devil is in everything. They think that it's separate from... It has its own specific places, and it doesn't go some places, and it only goes these places, and yeah, he's in everything. Everything. That's why you need to do the self-discovery, so that you know what's you and what isn't you. This Steen thing is a setup. And at the time when I first started my response to it, I thought that, well, if you look at the response that we got from the boycotts, it started with that beer company that made that poor choice, and they lost a lot of business. People saw that and said, okay. And when other companies did it, people started speaking up. The companies still did it for a little bit. But then they started to notice the same problems that the beer company had. So they said, well, maybe we won't do this. So when people started speaking up, they started listening more. And they responded faster. I think I only saw the colors for one last month. Pride is essentially dead. And it's not to say that we don't like gay people. Gay people are fine. Just live by the same rules that everyone else does, and leave the kids alone. Everything's good, everything's fine. But as a collective, we did that. And my initial thought for the Steen thing was, well, who are we going to see when the names come out? Judges and, Congress and governors and people in high places. People with businesses that can be destroyed by a public. And we're not violent people. We won't physically hurt anyone. But financially, and by the boycott, we can be quite destructive. And my initial thought was, well, maybe he's saying what he's saying because he wants to protect the country. He wants to protect the people. He's doing it for us, not them. And that could still be true. I don't know. The story has changed. And now it's there's nothing there. And that story could be true too. I mean, they've had plenty of time. And the agencies have gone after Christians. They've gone after parents. Remember the Tea Party? They went after them. They don't like us. So whether it was the agencies of the previous administration or even this one, because there's only a few new people. There are demons in everything. There are demons around him now. He works with them, foreign and domestic. Is it possible that they got rid of or relocated the files and replaced them with AI garbage? And when they found this AI garbage, that's when the story changed. And it's possible that when they first got into office, that the real stuff was there. They got a glimpse of it, and then it was removed. Think about that for a setup. There was I got a message about, it was a month or two ago, about a setup. And I can't get into a lot of the details. There's just stuff I can't say. But when I asked what the setup was, the answer that I got was in every way possible. I probably should have asked more questions at the time, but I let it go because that scared me. There's a lot of ways to be set up. And the thought comes to me that everyone is going to experience the setup. Usually when I receive messages from Spirit, it's because I've asked. And then I wait for it. And the answers come. And Spirit is interesting because the word setup, it can have negative connotations, but it can also have positive connotations. And I wonder if we aren't going to experience both. Do you remember way back before the election when all the news agencies were fussing, I guess? They were saying, if he gets in, he'll never leave. And I think most people just looked at that or listened to it and kind of rolled their eyes a bit and said, oh, the dramatics, they're trying to rile up the TDS crowd. The drama is just kind of becoming ongoing background noise. It's like static. When you look at those news agencies, you've probably seen the clips where someone's taken like 100 of them and stuck them all on the same frame, and they're all saying the same thing. They're like the Borg. And the Borg, they get their directive from one individual. And at this point, I'll just say it. I think it's the devil. I think someone is channeling the devil. I think there's one of those Ephesians, something or other. We battle not against flesh and blood, but principalities, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'll find it and put it in the thing. I think that's what that is. I think some of them are demons. Maybe not all of them. I don't know. But they speak with one voice. So when they said that, spirit, it can be very, very literal. So when you look at the phrase, if he gets in, he's never going to leave. From the perspective of spirit, never leaving would imply, for the physical, never dying. The Christ would have to be on the planet for that to happen. Also, never leaving would imply that the laws have changed. Because if the Christ is on the planet, the coups are not going to be tolerated. You have to ask yourself, did they announce that the Christ is on the way? And not only is the Christ on the way, it's going to happen during this term. There are some Christians that think he's John. And John comes before the Christ. We've been experiencing some interesting stuff. One of the messages that I got for the election that he lost was that he actually had about 75% of the vote. And I don't know how good Spirit is with numbers. But if that's true, they cheated a lot. And if he had 60% of the popular vote this time, how much more did they cheat? And how many more people voted for him? What is that number really? That's a remarkable amount of unity. And they're trying to drive a wedge. When you look at the AI, you can set that up to do pretty much anything, can't you? I mean, they make things that are cute and funny. But then you've got that telephone thing with Mr. Rosio there. And that was caught. But you have to wonder if they did that with the files. If they replaced the existing files with stuff like that. Just to cause trouble. Because now you have the same people that didn't say anything about it while they had control, wanting it released. So that's interesting. And you have the one that brought the subject up. Let's look at what he did. He stuck his foot in the door and started shoveling money in. I'm not sure that this executive can be bought, influence-wise. But he bought access. And with that access, he formed a friendship. That, I think, is probably the only way that the executive can be influenced, is by his friends. And I think this one knew that. Because if you look at what he did, with the third party thing, a third party is just going to splinter people off. It doesn't fix the EV mandate or the fact that Congress didn't do his stuff. Congress was never going to do his stuff. Congress does what Congress does because they're bought and paid for by other people. I mean, he showed you how money works. Buying your way, buying access. Well, other people do that to buy influence in Congress. They're prostitutes. Not all of them, but most of them. So I guess what I'm trying to say is this setup that the executive is experiencing right now, I think that whole thing was planned. They knew they weren't going to win, even with all the cheating. So the only way they can win is to destroy his character and to split his base. And that's what they're trying to do. And you have a choice. You can let it happen. You can stay with this 2 or 3 party system and keep letting them walk all over you. Or you can take the system back. Right now, Congress people are relatively easy to purchase. You know, they just go in and say, hey, I'll give you a blah 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 for if you do X, Y, and Z. And the deal is done. And then someone else comes and they have a different cause. So they pay them for that and the deal is done. What if, instead of having one congressperson, you make all of the aides, all of the admin people, everybody that's associated with that congressperson, and I'm not saying existing people now, I'm saying put new people in. Use different people. Use people that will vote for you. But say one congressperson is supported by 20 people, and I don't know if that's a correct number or not. But just for ha-has, let's say that 20 people support one congressperson. If you set it up so that everyone of those 21 people can do the job, they can do the congressional type stuff, they can do the admin type stuff, they can do whatever aides do, you know, all of it. They can do all of it. And I mean, you're still going to have the 2 votes in the Senate and however many for the representative, but you have all of these people now that can do the work. And you can take a portion of them and you can have them vote, and you can enter that result as the vote for that congressional seat. Now you have 21 people that would have to be purchased in order for that lobby thing to work. Because you're still paying them anyway. Why not make them all do the job? And if you set it up so that only one issue goes into a bill, you can keep track of who votes for what. And if you do it electronically, you can make it sortable. And you can leave a notes or a comments section and have them fill it out. I voted this way because blah, blah, blah. If it had been this way, I would have done this. That sort of thing. So that you can keep track of what they're doing and why. And if you also provide that system to the general public, private citizens can do the same thing. And you've set up a pool now to draw from when you need new people. Nobody has to campaign. There's less money involved. You could set the sorts up so that you can find people that match your values, that vote similarly to how you would want them to vote. And nobody has to be pressured to do anything because you pick someone that's gonna do what they're gonna do. And if you do this and you shift people around, I won't say it'll be impossible to purchase people, but it's gonna be a lot less likely because you're gonna have a lot of people. I think the corruption problem would be a lot less. And if you set up the system so that when you notice there's a problem, you can get rid of that person, all you got to do is take them out of the voting thing. They can still work. Just don't let them vote. You can control your Congress yourself. You can have what you want. You could do this with the judicial too. I mean, say a judge makes a ruling, and I think most of them have to write out, why they ruled the way they ruled, although sometimes they don't. It would be good if they did, because I think law enforcement uses that on how they interpret that ruling. But you could have them write it out why they did what they did, and make a similar thing available to lawyers that want to become judges, and you can make a pool for them too. Get rid of the lifetime appointment. Allow continued employment for them. But a lifetime appointment, that just says, hey, corrupt me. That's not a healthy thing. They don't do it for us. I mean, I suppose they do it for, when the universities, they call that tenure or something, whatever. Doesn't work for us, though. Congress has a lot more power than I think we realize. If you were to get in there and let's say that the Steen files hadn't been released by that point, you could ask to see them. And if they said no, you could defund them. Bye-bye. See you later. They're working against you anyway, so why not? I mean, it would be disruptive, but you can live under corruption, or you can be a little bit uncomfortable for a while and be free. I would like the freedom. Take back your power. You can do it. Look what you did with the boycotts. You can do it. The meek inherit the thorn. It's an interesting phrase. We've always thought we were alone here. And we've always been scared with, what if aliens come? What if they're already here? What if they're hiding among us? The phrase, the meek inherit the thorn, implies that someone else has it. And if we use reasoning, we know that the Prince of the Air is in charge right now. So, if he's in control, then he has to go away so that the meek inherit the thorn. I guess, to see his avatars, look for people that aren't meek. It's that simple. They're hiding in plain sight. The left has had this habit of redefining words, weaponizing them against us. Maybe it's time for us to redefine some words. Say, for example, meek. Let's replace quiet with good-natured, We can keep gentle. Instead of easily imposed upon, let's replace that with discerning. And let's replace submissive with having a healthy self-interest. I think that works a lot better. So Meek is now good-natured, gentle, discerning, and having a healthy self-interest. We can talk about it, I suppose, but I like that. I think it works. The meek inherit the Thearn. Pay attention to who is saying what. Pay attention to who backtracks. Pay attention to who doubles down. Pay attention to who apologizes. Are they humble? Are they sincere? They're afraid of you for a reason. When you see who they are, when you stand up for yourself, they lose it all. He will leave. He always leaves. When I had that conversation with him the other night, that was probably his idea, not mine. That was probably influenced. I mean, why would you ask someone just out of the blue, "Are you sure you want to end it this way?" Isn't that kind of an odd question to ask? I don't think that was me. I think that was him. And his sideways sort of way that he has. So he's either set me up there, or he is actually ready to go. I don't know. I don't know which one it is. I guess we'll find out.